You have probably heard that the Great Wall of China is visible from space, or that you only use 10% of your brain. These staples of science trivia are everywhere, in textbooks, in documentaries, and at dinner tables. Here is the truth. Not only are these facts wrong, they reveal how easily our senses and intuition can fail us. If even astronauts and scientists have been misquoted or misunderstood, what else do we all get wrong about the world, and what are the hidden consequences? Let's put our beliefs to the test. You might picture the Great Wall of China stretching across mountains, so vast it must be visible from space. In reality, standing on the International Space Station, 400 kilometers above Earth, even trained astronauts cannot pick it out with the naked eye. The wall's narrow width and earth-toned colors let it blend into the landscape, making it nearly impossible to distinguish without a camera lens. Chris Hadfield, who spent months orbiting the planet, has said he searched for the wall and never saw it unaided. NASA's Earth Observatory confirms that while high-resolution satellites can detect the wall, the human eye simply cannot resolve such fine detail from that altitude. For comparison, spotting the wall would be like trying to see a single roof tile from an airplane at cruising height. Here's the surprising part. City lights and airports shine clearly from orbit, but the Great Wall remains hidden. If our senses can be fooled by something this famous, what about the stories we hear about our own bodies? You might have heard that humans use only 10% of their brains. That claim sounds scientific, but it falls apart under real scrutiny. The story traces back to early 20th century self-help writers, not neuroscientists. Modern brain imaging, including functional MRI and positron emission tomography scans, shows activity lighting up across the entire brain even during simple tasks, and especially when we are at rest. Here's the key number. Your brain burns about 20% of your body's resting energy, despite making up just 2% of your weight. That is a massive energy bill for an organ supposedly sitting idle. Neuroscientist Marcus Raichle revealed the brain's default mode network, a system that stays active even when you are daydreaming or asleep. In fact, there is no silent region waiting to be unlocked. The whole system is always humming. Even the act of reading a single word triggers a flurry of activity in networks scattered across both hemispheres. The real surprise is this: if the brain truly ran at only 10%, evolution would have trimmed that waste long ago. Next, let us look at another everyday myth where physics gets twisted by our intuition. Turn on a sink anywhere in the world and the water spirals down the drain. You might have heard that in the northern hemisphere it always spins one way, and in the southern hemisphere, the opposite, all thanks to the Coriolis effect. That sounds neat, but here's the real story. The truth is that the Coriolis force is so weak at the scale of a sink that it barely registers. At mid-latitudes, the Coriolis parameter is about 1/10,000th per second. In notation, F equals 10 to the -4. That is powerful enough to steer hurricanes across oceans, but in your bathroom it is completely overpowered by the shape of the bowl, the angle you pour water, and even tiny bumps or currents on the surface. According to NOAA meteorologists, the direction your sink drains is a matter of plumbing, not planetary physics. Hurricanes do spin opposite ways in each hemisphere, and that is a real, large-scale effect. Your toilet, on the other hand, is effectively immune to those planetary forces. Next, let's see what happens when science tries to put people in boxes. Literally. You might think some people are left-brained, logical and analytical, while others are right-brained, creative and intuitive. That idea has shaped classrooms and job interviews for decades, but that label comes from a fundamental misunderstanding. Early split brain experiments did show that certain functions, such as language, tend to cluster more on one side of the brain. Still, when neuroscientists looked closer, they found that the brain's real power comes from connection, not division. The corpus callosum, a thick bundle of about 200 million axons, links the two hemispheres in a constant exchange. Modern brain scans show that solving a math problem or composing music activates networks across both sides of the brain. In 2013, a large study led by Jared Nielsen tracked brain connectivity in more than 1,000 people and found no evidence for stable left brain or right brain dominance tied to personality or talent. The truth is, creativity and logic depend on both hemispheres working together, not in isolation. Next, we ask whether our place in nature is as straightforward as we like to imagine. The classic image of human evolution, a neat lineup of ape-like figures gradually standing taller until they become modern humans, has shaped how generations imagine our origins. This so-called ladder of progress appears in textbooks, museum exhibits, and even cartoons. The most famous version, the 1965 illustration known as the March of Progress, shows evolution as a straight line, with each step more advanced than the last. But this picture owes more to Victorian-era beliefs than to science. It simplifies a messy, branching process into a single upward path, making it seem as though evolution always aims for complexity, or that humans are the inevitable goal. The appeal of this image is powerful. It is easy to remember, easy to teach, and it fits our desire for order. Yet the reality of how life changes over time is far more tangled and surprising than any ladder can capture. Evolution's real story is written in branches, not steps. Every living primate today, humans, chimpanzees, gibbons, and gorillas, descends from a shared ancestor that lived about 25 million years ago. That ancestor was not a modern ape or monkey, but a creature whose descendants split and flourished along separate paths. The tree of life stretches much further back. Bacteria have been thriving on Earth for an estimated 3.5 billion years, outlasting and outnumbering every animal by orders of magnitude. On a true evolutionary tree, there is no top or bottom, just a web of lineages, each adapting in its own way. Some branches lead to organisms with complex brains and societies. Others lead to creatures that survive in boiling vents or frozen deserts. In this view, success is not about complexity or intelligence, but about how well a branch fits its environment. The real surprise? The most enduring winners are not always the ones we expect. Science moves forward by questioning what seems obvious. In a world flooded with information, the real challenge is asking better questions. The next myth begins when you stop taking facts for granted.